Avenue, and then we'll take it higher.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional home to the Game Sports Show, Canadian franchise Boston Pizza. Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie, located on 601 Great Northern Road, Sault Ste. Marie. Come in and join Boston Pizza for its numerous specials that are offered. After 9 p.m. daily, come in to Boston Pizza for $9 schooners, $4 rail drinks, and delicious food. Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie, you're among friends.
Booyah, and it's time for the Game Sports Show, and it's yours truly, David McKaig, and I'm live on location here at Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie. It is Thursday, June the 14th, 2018, and it's a busy one here at Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie. As always, we got regular customers, we got birthday parties, we got fans of the sports show, we got individuals watching the Calder Cup final between Texas and Toronto. We also got the MLB game on between the Tampa Bay Rays and the New York Yankees. Lots going on here at Boston Pizza, and also it's after 9 p.m. where you get their daily specials. It's the $9 schooners for most of the Canadian and Coors Light products, alongside those $4 bar rail drinks and the half price off appetizers as well. You got to make sure you come on down to Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie, and Boston Pizza in general, where you are among friends. And I must say, the waitresses and waiter and let's say all the people here in Boston Pizza looking pretty good wearing the Game Sports Show attire here tonight live on location. I'm going to get to the merchandise in just a few moments, and I'm also going to get to my usual co-hosts and analysts here, Brad Cochmelio and Justin Heickel, and bring them in just a few moments. Just going to get through the usual introduction portion here on the Game Sports Show. And as I mentioned, I'm here at Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie, which is one of the homes to the Game Sports Show. Obviously, as you know, every Thursday we're here live at Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie, where you are among friends. And a shout out to additional sponsors. Another home to the Game Sports Show on Wednesday, Sports Center Bar and Grill, where myself, Jamie Antonello, and Coach Matt Primo were last night. Also, Justin Heickel is a part of that show, and Dustin Grondin Wednesdays at Sports Center Bar and Grill. Another home to the Game Sports Show on Mondays, The Wicked Sister, where you can hear myself, Scott Nason, EJ Russell, and Butch Davis. And a list of additional sponsors here in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario: Discover the Canvas, The Salon, Super Heat Pro Shop, Big Brother Big Sister, and Northern Critters in Need, along with new sponsor Northern Signs. And speaking of new sponsors, must give a quick shout out here to two new sponsors on the show, and one of them being another additional home to the Game Sports Show, which I'm going to get to a little bit later next week when it comes to laying out the agenda of the show. Silver Creek Golf Course and Jamie Henderson are another new sponsor on the show. I must mention as well, KBX, Ken Belanger, being on board with the Game Sports Show as well. Very excited to have Ken Belanger on the show and have him come on by for an interview in the future as well. And those are the sponsors here in Sault Ste. Marie. And as you can tell, we have a wide range of sponsors here on the show, and obviously a big part of the Game Sports Show. Over in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, as I mentioned, a home to the Game Sports Show, additional home, The Wicked Sister, where you can hear myself, Scott Nason, EJ Russell, and Butch Davis. Pingator Cleaner, which is another sponsor in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. And I must give a shout out to Scott Nason. He is our board operator for tonight, as always. Special shout out to Aaron Grisdak, to Lauren, to Mitch, the bringer of beer, Samantha Maione, to the crew here at Boston Pizza, giving us great, full Molson products on this jug, and also great food as well, and taking care of us as they always do. And as I said, the listeners out there, many thanks to you, as you know, the show would not be where it's at without us loyal and faithful listeners. Now, getting to the show for tonight, the agenda for tonight, we're going to stick to our usual agenda, where it's going to be baseball and hockey talk here, professionally and locally. And in this first portion, after we get through the introduction portion here, we're going to be discussing some local baseball news on a fun front. And also, we're going to be talking some Major League Baseball professionally as well. Then we're going to have a break, and that's when we're going to be talking about hockey, both on the local and professional front as well. We're going to have Brad Cochmelio really analyze a little bit of a front from the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, and we definitely have a lot to talk about when it comes to professional hockey, with obviously the Calder Cup going on, and in particular the NHL, with, let's say, the NHL awards right around the corner. The draft is also around the corner, but there's also some news involving Erik Karlsson that we're going to be jumping into as well, and then followed by our multiple choice segment, which will be followed by last week's trivia question answer in regards to Craig Hartsburg. We're going to state the winner of that trivia question before we officially conclude tonight's show here at Boston Pizza. Now, without further ado, I'm going to bring in the boys. Guy usually to my left, Justin Heickel. Guy to my right, as always, Brad Cochmelio. I'm going to go with Brad first on the right. Brad, how you doing, sir?
So you had to keep it simple for you. We're at a different table, but we had to make sure that we sat on the same side. We didn't want to confuse you.
Oh, I would have given Justin the phone if he was on the other side. If it meant to be you, I would have been all over the place.
Oh, your life would have been so difficult if we had changed places.
It's already a little bit difficult because of, the nice shirts that are being worn here at Boston Pizza.
Yeah, those are pretty nice, eh? Nice little logo.
I wonder what show that is.
I don't know. Is it maybe us?
I think it is us. But it's good that Brad's doing it. I'm going to go over to my left here. My usual partner in crime. Been around with me for over 3.5 years. The beautiful Justin Heichel. Justin, how you doing?
Oh, getting a little fresh with me today, calling me beautiful. I kind of like that. But not really. It's uncomfortable and weird. Maybe an idea for the next run of shirts, we just get our names on them. So then he doesn't get mixed up when we're sitting at different spots at the table. That way it's, we don't have to, we'll save money on name tags and, but all jokes aside, it's nice to be here for the last little bit of professional hockey we've got for before the summer gets going here, and maybe we'll see our Marlies bring home a Calder Cup.
The Toronto Marlies currently, while we are talking, are up 2-0 in the second intermission against Texas, which is Dallas's farm team right now. If the Marlies get the W tonight, that means that the Marlies will be taking home the AHL championship, which is very exciting, especially if you're a Toronto fan, to see a championship come to Toronto that it involves a hockey team. It'll be their first in franchise history. If they do so, we'll keep you updated as the show goes on as well. Now, fellas, I'm going to jump into some local ball news fronts here, and we're going to start with baseball, as I just said. And we're going to be talking a lot of Sault Minor baseball this year. That's the announcement I wanted to state as well, along with those two new sponsors that we got with Jamie Henderson and with Ken Belanger, Silver Creek Golf Course and KBX. But we're going to be doing a lot of coverage when it comes to Sault Minor baseball and obviously baseball in general. We feel that with the baseball front, it's good to talk about professional sports when it comes to baseball and the Blue Jays, because that's obviously a big part of our show when it comes to MLB and talking Jays and MLB in general, but to get in touch with the local community there as well. And we're even going to talk about men's open baseball involving the Renegades, because we're going to give it a little bit of fun talk here for the listeners. When it comes to the Renegades, I'm sure some listeners are like, who? What? What are the Renegades? Well, that is yours truly's men's baseball team. Hard pitch. It's not slow pitch. I have respect for slow pitch. We slow pitch for over a handful of years, but now playing actual fast pitch, that is a big league. It's starting to grow. There's more players involved now, and it's great to see that grow with the 4 teams that we have, and hopefully continue to grow to 5, 6, and so on and so forth. And the update I'm going to give on the Renegades is my current team is 2-0 in the men's open division, defeated the Boston Red Sox Slugs, they're called, in the men's open, a team that did not lose a game all last year and was 1-0 going into this week's action against us, and we beat them 14-11. Yours truly went 1 for 2 at the plate with 2 steals. 2 steals and a couple runs and an on-base percentage of 1,000. Now, the reason why I'm going to bring this up, because we're going to have an open discussion about this. I'm sure you guys have chirps and you want to laugh about my statistics this year. There's going to be updates on my statistics throughout this year and how I go. I must say, last year I batted 6 for 25, which is a 240 average. My first year playing hardball. Okay, I got struck out 12 times. I had over 7 errors in the field. Let's just say it wasn't the best of all seasons. Okay, now I'm going in with a vengeance this year. I have a different mindset. Okay, I even have a celebration when I get to first base. It's the Thanos finger snap. I want that to catch on. Now, Brad, I want to bring up local baseball. That's the point of this point, is that, yes, we're going to talk about men's open baseball as well. We're going to have some fun discussion about that every week. But obviously going to bring in Sault Minor baseball. And I'm going to go over to you in terms of, well, are you surprised that my team is 2-0 and that we're first in the league right now, first off? And secondly, how important do you feel it is to have the local baseball front put on our radio show?
Well, for your first question, so many jokes are running through my head. It's hard to pick just one. Yes, I am surprised that any team that includes David McKegg is 2-0.
Nice.
We'll just leave it at that.
Nice.
Now, as far as you stealing a couple bases, was there a catcher?
See, I know it would be a good topic to bring up each week. We could open on my statistics and how the updates on the league's going. And yes, there was a catcher, and I cleanly stole them.
Okay. Now, which leads me to the next question. How bad is his sight?
Believe it or not, it's an app. It's called Game Changer. I'll give Game Changer a little app. Andre LaFrancois, when he is the team representative on our team, every time we're at bat, he puts each pitch in this app, and it generates it while we're at bat. Let's say I have I was on a 3-0 count. I was 3 balls, no strikes, and I swung on a 3-0 and got a single out of it and went out to the outfield. I must add as well. Wasn't some soft hit. It went out to the outfield. Okay.
But what he's not telling everybody is there were no infielders to make a play on it.
There was a couple infielders. I'm not sure if they were prepared for my hit to go that far. That's a good way to put it.
There was a shift. They were all shifted to the dugout.
It was opposite field. An opposite field hit too. And I walked. I must add that. I almost forgot I walked. But the whole point of this segment is that we're going to talk about men's open baseball, as I said, in our league. Get a little update for Sioux minor baseball and obviously for Sioux men's baseball as well in the open. Give them that publicity. Brad, just to answer the second question, very important for the local front. It's very exciting to have local baseball be kind of brought on board and how we can give updates to some games, yes, but obviously give some perspective and some schedules where you can watch them.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's one of those things that, I mean, baseball in this city, it took a little bit of a dive the last few years, and I don't mean that, disrespectfully, because I know a lot of people involved, but it's been down for a few years, so, the idea is you hope that it's on that upswing now.
Pun intended.
Yeah, and it's it's at a point where you're seeing more kids at younger levels playing now, which is exciting. I think that bodes well for the future.
Absolutely, and that was a big part of having that was a Sioux minor baseball. Very busy at Strathclyde. I was there at the batting cages before I came here today, actually working on that swing to keep improving the average there, Justin. And, very busy at Strathclyde all the time. You got soccer this summer, a lot of sports at Strathclyde, very busy area, and it was very important to bring on the local baseball front. Justin, I know that's actually give you kudos because that was your idea to bring this on, and there's still some things we're working on in terms of getting some reps on, and we're hoping to get some representatives and even some coaches on just to talk about local baseball and even some improvements that can happen or some improvements that have occurred and what could be best to Sioux baseball to improve and ascend in the right direction.
I was pretty fascinated by you rhyming off all the stats there. I've never heard you fluently go through that many numbers in my life.
Christ.
And before you went off on the stat tracker there, I just thought you were misinterpreting the information in your Fitbit. I mean, but no, honestly, the touching base with local sports, we kind of started on the premise that we wanted to be a local based sports something. Yeah. Whether it was going to be a blog or us spitballing stuff, but
3.5 years ago.
Yeah, and now here we are. We get to rant every week about pro sports and the stuff that annoys us, the same stuff you'll see on TV week after week. But I think come summertime now and everyone's got a little more free time, you touch base with the community a little bit and you give people that otherwise maybe wouldn't get so much, not attention, but we're catering to more of a different niche than we usually would, and people can touch base with us and get the information.
Touch base.
Yeah, get the information from us that they want to get about their local sports leagues. Some place that websites might not carry that, or other radio might not carry that. We just want to cater to those people that want to touch base for 5-10 minutes. I said touch base again, and you smiled. But just for people to look in and see the stats about the stuff that matters to them. And it's working for us so far, so why not expand?
That's the big thing that Justin touched on there. The show started 3.5 years ago from McDonald's with Scott Nace and I called Coffee with the Coach. It has now expanded to, actually I think it's almost 4 years ago now, and it moved to the Game Sports Show in Sioux, Michigan, where it was the Wicked Sister. Then it branched to Sports Center Bar and Grill. Now it's branched to Boston Pizza. We were mostly on Mondays, we focused on local, where Wednesdays and Thursdays was more professional. But now it's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're talking local and we're talking professional all in one. All the sponsors that are on board. Also, it all started, yes, let's say with Mondays, but even with recently with the Sabercats joining on Wednesday at Sports Center Bar and Grill with football, we touched the local football. We're going to be into local hockey this September more when it comes to the Pee Wee and some AAA teams, and obviously the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds that we're going to be involved with. And the big thing that we're getting to at this point, because we're talking baseball right now, essentially, is the only stat that we're going to be providing on this night is my Renegade stats and also our team stat. But throughout the summer, we're going to be talking Sioux minor baseball as well at Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and I'll also touch Sioux, Michigan. If I don't touch it on this show with Sioux, Michigan, Scott Nason will certainly get that wrap up on Mondays at the Wicked Sister. But moving from the local side, we're going to jump to the professional side, where we're going to talk about the Toronto Blue Jays. And the Blue Jays right now are getting absolutely humiliated by the Tampa Bay Rays in Tampa. They lost 8-4, 4-1, and 1-0. Now, 1-0 is not humiliated, but here's the humiliation part. The Toronto Blue Jays are 33-67 in the last 100 games on the road in Tampa. They cannot win in Tampa. For some reason, they cannot get the win in Tampa. So what I want to say right now is the Blue Jays, okay, their record right now as a team is 30-38, which is fourth in the AL East. They are 16 and a half games back up on the Red Sox. Now, there's other teams that the Blue Jays are well behind on. Now, listen, it's only 68 games into the season. There's still 90-plus games to go. All right? There's still 90-plus games to go. A lot of season left, I understand. Okay, but when you get behind the 8 ball in this division, you're going to be stuck there, in my opinion. We've seen this division for the past few years with the Jays even being on a winning front. When they were winning, it was tight for them to win, too. This is a very competitive division. And the Blue Jays are behind that right now. And we've said this week by week by week. Where's the movement going to happen? When's it going to happen? They need to enter rebuild mode. Am I crazy still for saying that? I know we touched on it almost the last couple weeks. We've been touching on it, how they should hit the rebuild mode, hit the reset button. But you have Vlad Jr. in the minors, who's out for 4 weeks with a knee injury, 3 weeks now. And people are saying, call up this guy. No, don't call up this guy. Don't ruin. Like, the team is not winning. He's not in an environment that's positive right now. I don't care what anybody says about the Blue Jays. That environment, they may seem all close, but it's not a happy environment to be in right now. There's a lot of veterans on that team that want to win now. Russell Martin, Josh Donaldson, Kendrys Morales. And Troy Tulowitzki. There's a lot of guys who want to win now, and their pitching has been absolutely atrocious. Hasn't lived up to snuff either. Their best pitcher has been J.A. Happ. Okay, and that's not the guy we were expecting to be their best guy. Aaron Sanchez and Marcus Stroman were the guys that we were thinking were going to be the individuals to lead the Blue Jays in this rotation. This rotation was to be the top 10 in baseball, but they have not been. And Brad, I'm going to slide over to you first. The Blue Jays are well behind the 8 ball. Literally, they're 16 and a half games back from the Yankees. Tough division to climb back from.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? We talked about it early in the year. That, you know what, this was a team that was, going to rely on pitching. That hasn't happened. Their starting pitching has been, for the most part, atrocious. And that's such a tough situation when, what was supposed to be your strength is ultimately your biggest weakness. And, if I'm the Blue Jays, you already knew things were kind of on the downswing the last year or two. You almost needed to make this move and get younger and rebuild full out sooner. And I mean, I get it that you want to build off some success, but I mean, it's not happening. I mean, you're in a position where it's just not happening now. Make the moves, get the job done. I mean, I've said it on the show. I keep going back to the Detroit Tiger model. The Detroit Tigers had a window. They were good for a handful of years. Went to a couple World Series, didn't win one, but we're in a couple World Series. And they've basically done things right. They traded Justin Verlander. They trade the names. I mean, Miguel Cabrera is a tough one, and now with him being out for the year, that's obviously not an option, but Miguel Cabrera is a tough one to deal just because of his contract. And let's face it, he's on the downturn of his career. But I'm sure if the Tigers get an option, they're going to consider moving him, to get that rebuild moving a little quicker. And, if I'm the Toronto Blue Jays, you have to. At this point, and I mean, I know Toronto Blue Jay fans, some of them aren't going to like it, but at this point, you have to. You have to start rebuilding. You have to look to the future. It's got to happen.
You have to definitely look at that now. We got to be prepared and think of it early. That's the big thing. We got to be prepared for it early. Now, this year we were thinking that the Blue Jays, when that hot start, that they might be able to go to the playoffs and make that wild card, because believe it or not, over 65% of experts predicted the Blue Jays to be in a wild card position. But they're not. They're far from it. And the trade front is looking very attractive for them. A lot of players available on Toronto's front. Your name's Josh Donaldson, you're open. There's a lot of big names in this market. Even Bryce Harper and Clayton Kershaw's name has been brought up in the open market. You got teams that are buying right now that you didn't even think were going to buy. You got the Atlanta Braves that are in buy mode. Obviously, the Yankees and Cubs are in buy mode. They have been for years. The Yankees are never not in buy mode. So I must say right now that literally I think that the Toronto Blue Jays have to start preparing for a rebuild, and not to include that by bringing in Vlad Jr. They have to include it by making moves for guys that are second chance guys on teams that are trying to get rid of guys that just have roster spot on team. Cover the roster spot and go in this year and start to be prepared that you're going to be at the bottom of the AL, and you got to think that next year you want to try to trend upwards. The Baltimore Orioles are in a worse spot than the Blue Jays are. They have a lot of veterans on that team. Manny Machado, he won't say it publicly, but he wants the heck out of there as well. He wants to win. And Baltimore is nowhere close to winning. They had their chance a couple years ago back when they made the playoffs, but they have not been successful since. The Blue Jays made the playoffs a couple years in a row. They had strong runs that went off the back of home runs, a lot of high offensive games. Pitching was always pretty decent when it came to playoffs. But now, even with the strong core right now at pitching, has not been what they expected. And the batting is not the same as it used to be. There's a lot of guys that are attractive in terms of Josh Donaldson. Russell Martin might even be attractive. Some teams, I know his contract's high, but he's a great leader. Might be some teams that might go down that route. Kevin Pillar is very attractive. One of the best defenders in baseball in center field. Now it depends if the Blue Jays are going to not get rid of him for value, as if they're actually going to be able to move him mentally and physically. In terms of, can you handle moving him? Can you handle moving Kevin Pillar? And let me tell you, don't expect a huge return from Pillar, because he's not going to hit you 30 home runs. But you know what? He's going to get you some good young prospects that you can be able to move in future trades later, and I think it is a possible move you should consider. Donaldson, Pillar, Martin, Granderson, Kendrys Morales. Those are the 5 guys I'm considering to move. And I'm even going to move from the pitching front, J.A. Happ. I'm 100% moving Happ this year. And I'm even considering, guys are going to roll your eyes at me, but Aaron Sanchez. Why Aaron Sanchez, you ask? Very simple. The guy has a new agent. The new agent that he got is because the other agent that he had he was not pleased with it because of certain negotiations before. He's going to want to get paid a lot of money. And I don't really think, frankly, he's shown that he's deserved it, except one good season that he's had so far. This year he hasn't shown me that he's worth over $20 million a year. I don't see that. So, Justin, I'll slide over to you before we go to a little MLB other news before we go to our first break. Blue Jays. The players I named, are those the guys that are moved? Is there other guys you could think come to mind? And are you surprised by their record right now and just the humiliation in Tampa Bay, how they weren't able to even get a win so far in Tampa Bay, being, losing last night? It was 1-0 to Tampa, and now they play tomorrow in Toronto against Washington. It's just been an up and down season. I think Blue Jay fans are already starting to accept the rebuild phase, or not even rebuild, retooling stage.
I think before you make any moves with your roster, I really think you need to take a hard look at the group that's managing the roster. What I saw as far as comments from John Gibbons, I believe, after the second Tampa game the other day, were disgusting from a coach. And, I'm not one to use the word disgusting much because there's too many syllables for me. But I can't quote it verbatim without swearing. He just... Basically, they asked him, what happened today? And he said, I don't know. I don't care. And one of his comments, I believe, last week was, my dream job would be coaching AA baseball in San Antonio. Well, if that's your dream job, then get the hell out and go to San Antonio and coach AA baseball. Because you can't possibly even consider bringing a guy up from the minors into this toxic environment, from what I'm seeing from the outside looking in. I mean, these players don't have a chance to succeed if no one's pushing them to succeed.
It's never been I feel his team, though. Like, I feel like the players coached themselves those years that they had success. I might be crazy saying that, but I feel like he listened to Donaldson, Bautista, Encarnacion when he was there, and all those guys.
I mean, you can't tell me Batista didn't run that locker room. Then when all of a sudden he wasn't there, the team had jack squat. Like, they didn't do anything. Everyone was out there. It's like the Jays the last 2 years have looked like me when someone asked me a question about basketball. Uncomfortable and unknowledgeable.
You're honest.
Like, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I like March Madness. I root for Michigan State because I went to university in the States a little bit. That seemed like a smart choice for my own personal safety at the time and for our Michigan listeners.
Yeah.
But it just back to the Jays, it doesn't... Before you make any player moves, you got to move Gibbons and his cronies out. And, like, I honestly thought the time to do that was last night. I thought it was going to happen after that Tampa game last night. And maybe, what's his name up in the front office there didn't see the same interview on Sportsnet I saw, and then didn't see the same interview on Tim and Sid afterwards where they had the same conversation we're having. Like, before you start shaking up players, you got to shake up the coaching. And then if you're going to bring in other players, you got to put them in an environment where you expect them to succeed. You can't fire a guy, bring him back, let the wheels fall off, and let him sit there and say, I want to coach in San Antonio, and hope that it's going to work out. It's not. And it's an injustice to your fans when you're bumping up ticket prices and you're just putting this out there. Like, that's like going to a Mr. Universe competition and Brad and I not being there. Fact.
I almost feel like saying boom roasted. You know, I almost feel like adding that. Brad, you got anything to comment in terms of the Gibbons? I could not agree more about... I've said this when they brought him back, that I wasn't a fan of him bringing him back. The way he is in interviews... That's me chopping gum. Yeah, it was a good game. He doesn't even remember what he did, I don't think, what he did there. So I'm going to say that Gibbons, you know, was a lot around when the Blue Jays were successful. I'm stuttering when I say that because I'm trying to say the right word there, but I really think that is where it has to start. I couldn't agree more. Remove that, make the trades, just hit the detonate button. And you know what? I'm not even a fan in terms of, at the time, Atkins and Shapiro hiring. I wasn't. Now, they're there. They're not going anywhere, those guys. Okay? Now, Atkins is a very professional guy, though. At interviews, dressed, stands straight, professional. He is a guy, though, that took apart with Shapiro and was there with Cleveland. Shapiro took a lot of years to build Cleveland to what it is right now, okay? So the Blue Jays are not in that same factor, though. I feel like they're a team that can do a quick turnaround. They can tear it down. They can do a quick turnaround, though, because look at Bichette and Vlad Jr. Those are two guys that come in your lineup right now and make an impact, but you don't do that because that's stupidity, because of this toxic environment. But Brad, like I was saying, over to you, is a coaching change reasonable and needed for the Jays before the moves or after the moves? If the moves happen, let's say. I'm not saying the moves are happening because I don't have a stamp of approval, but that most likely are going to happen.
That's a tough situation. I mean, it's one of those things. Do I believe that John Gibbons has done a good job there? Not at all. Like, I'm the numbers don't lie. I mean, at the end of the day, the numbers do not lie. They tell the whole story. But I mean, you almost have to do one or the other and give it some time. You fire John Gibbons and bring someone in and then see what happens, or you make the moves and give John Gibbons more time. I mean, you're doing one of the two there. I don't think you can do both. I don't think doing both is the right idea. I mean, for me, I would rather see them do one or the other.
Wow. Might make sense to make the moves, then release Gibbons. But Gibbons is a part in that locker room in terms of developing the guys. But again, if they make moves, they're going to be bringing in guys that are, I want to say, second chance guys, or guys that are being moved from other teams that wouldn't be on that team any longer. So I might have to actually agree with Brad's point there in terms of make the moves first in the offseason. You give Gibbons the see you later.
Why not just flex Gibby up into the media coverage instead? I mean, that's been pretty rough this year too. So, I mean, he'd be entertaining up there. We watch press conferences just to watch him, so why not have him on the Jays broadcast?
It's funny. You could replace Craig's on. Oh, I won't go there. I'm sorry. That's not funny. But all seriousness, I've been to the Rogers Center every year since I was 19 years old.
Since you were 20, what?
Well, I've been to over 55 Blue Jay games at the Rogers Center. Fun stat for you. Stats, I've seen a total of 28 losses. So I've seen a decent amount of wins as well. Okay, and each time I was there, you know who has been there? John Gibbons. Right? So let me tell you right now. When I went there, Cito Gaston, when he was the intern, was not there. So John Farrell was there before I was 21 a few times, because he was there when Blue Jays played the Red Sox. But the point of this whole point is that Gibbons has been there too long. I feel like he's world his welcome. He had his 2-year success. They didn't make it last year. This year they're going on a different avenue that I think is not in John Gibbons' realm. Make the moves. Let the season die out if you want, or letting it just die out in general. And then when it goes in the offseason, you make the moves necessary to replace him with a new manager.
Well, and one of the things now that the Toronto Blue Jays have is the uncomfortable title of being the Toronto sports team that's failing, and everyone's going to overanalyze every single move that you make. Like, much like the cesspool that is the Toronto media sometimes is like the Suit Today comment section on any article regarding taxation or PUC rates or this week the police do anything like that. It's just as bad. So no matter what the Jays do, it's going to be overanalyzed until they're successful again. That's just a fact. But I honestly think they're in good hands. It's just baseball's a terribly long season, and it's really hard to see progress immediately. And Toronto's a what have you done for me lately city. And as a Toronto sports fan, we're what have you done for me lately fans. I mean, how badly did we eat up the Leafs right after that loss just because of minor things?
Jake Gardner.
It wasn't Jake Gardner. You shut your mouth. I'll take that to my grave.
Jake Gardner.
Or until Jake Gardner gives me a handshake and thanks me for defending his honor. But I'm going to pass this back over to you because this is getting an uncomfortable trail off. So.
But no, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with the Jays for sure. And you can keep it locked here on the Game Sports Show. We'll give you Blue Jays update throughout the entirety of the season. And very interesting for sure what's going to happen. We'll be talking about their games and potential trades that might happen. I might have my eyes glued on the MLB trade deadline tracker when that day definitely comes, as the Blue Jays should be very active in the selling perspective anyway. Quick points about the MLB trade rumors and updates before we go to our first break, and I'm going to spearhead this before we go to our break. Manny Machado, jump on there. The guy is wanted, extremely wanted. The Atlanta Braves are on him. The Chicago Cubs, the New York Yankees. A lot of teams are on him, and the one team that is very interesting for me, in my opinion, that may be on him as well is the Cleveland Indians. I just feel like there's a team that's trying to win it right now before the money has to come in for Jose Ramirez, Francisco Lindor. I feel like the Cleveland Indians are going to be the ones that make a quick run at Manny Machado. They're first in the Central. I think they're going to make the playoffs with ease, and I think they have a chance to come out of the AL. Their challenge is going to be between the Yankees or the Red Sox. I feel the Indians are a team that, if they add Machado, would put them over the top and give them that player that could put them to win. And then Machado would obviously go to free agency, where he would consider one of two locations, probably the New York Yankees over the Chicago Cubs, because everyone seems to go to the New York Yankees when it comes to a trade deadline. The Twins send down Miguel Sano to Class A due to his struggles. You know, the guy was a strikeout machine last year. He's going into this year. He was in the home run derby last year as well. There's a guy who was absolutely struggling this year. Longoria suffers a left hand fracture on a hit by pitch. Big loss for the Rays, depending on his time frame being out, which I'm sure will be announced later on. Justin Verlander having a lot of success with the Houston Astros, former Detroit Tiger. The Astros won their 8th in a row with him on the mound. And I can tell you right now, Justin Verlander is loving the game of baseball, and it seems like he has found it back. A lot of reminder there for Marc-Andre Fleury when it comes to the hockey, and because of somebody who found the love for the game again, Verlander certainly found that in his stint right now with the Astros. Now, I must ask you, Brad, before we go to our break, how you like the success of Justin Verlander in Houston? Does that make you smile?
Absolutely. I was always, as a Tiger fan, I've always been a big JV fan. I was lucky enough to watch him pitch.
Same here.
In Detroit against Steven Strasburg.
Oh, I never saw Strasburg.
And I had standing room tickets at Comerica Park in Detroit.
Beautiful ballpark.
Yeah, an outstanding, amazing ballpark. And to watch those two guys pitch against each other was unbelievable.
What was the outcome of that game?
Tigers win. It was like a 4-2 game. It was a close game, naturally. Just to watch those two guys deal was amazing. Seen a lot of great pitchers. Saw Tom Glavine pitch when he was at the New York Mets. Unfortunately, he was near the end of his career, and he wasn't the Tom Glavine we all know and love. He was very poor Tom Glavine, who got lit up by the Detroit Tigers that year. But yeah, I mean, talking about JV, I mean, talk about a guy who, like you said, just obviously loves the sport. I mean, he's just one of those guys that, it's impossible for me. I don't think, I always joke that I'm a fan of any former Tigers as long as they don't play for the Yankees. I was a big Pudge Rodriguez fan until he left Detroit and went to the Yankees. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of never forgave him for that.
Pudge, big fan favorite in Detroit before.
Yeah, I mean, JV might be the only guy that could go to the Yankees and I would be like, yeah, you know what, it's okay because it's JV. But yeah, I mean, just a guy who loves the sport and, goes out there and deals on a daily basis and just strikes me as one of those guys that's just an amazing teammate.
Absolutely, and I must stand corrected on a point. I don't know why I said Rays. I was looking at the Toronto Blue Jays kind of statistics there when they play in the Rays. Evan Longoria is on the San Francisco Giants, and I knew that, so I stand corrected with that. I want to make sure that the listeners know what I am talking about, know that I'm not stunned. I was just looking at stat, and when you look at certain stats, sometimes you get sidetracked. And I'm pretty famous for getting sidetracked once in a while as well, but Longoria suffering that hit by pitch left hand fracture there, and he's a part of the Giants having a very good year, which leads me to my final point before we go to break. Who the heck do you get from the Blue Jays to go to the All-Star game? That's what I want to hear from the listeners. Who do you think? Because I got nobody. I really got nobody. Not Smoke. The guy's batting 229 this year. Donaldson has 5 dingers with 234 average. The guy's descending more than ascending. The most exciting player on the Blue Jays has been Kevin Pillar, and it's a very tight center field. It's not because of his batting, it's just because he's been able to be big on defensive plays. Listeners, let me know what you think about who you think the Blue Jays might have sent to the All-Star game. Is it J.A. Happ? I know it's not Roberto Osuna. Too soon. Are you going to send a Vlad Jr. bobblehead? I like that. Might even send Vlad Jr. from the minors to go represent the Blue Jays organization. Let me know what you think. If you guess it right, you might get a prize courtesy of Boston Pizza or Silver Creek Golf Course. We shall see. Dave McKaig alongside Justin Heichel and Brad Cochamilio. A little bit of an extended introduction, but we're allowed to do that. Tonight we got a little bit of leeway when it comes to time here tonight, but when we come back, we're going to have a little bit of hockey chat. And it's not just a little bit of hockey chat. I should actually state that it's a lot of hockey chat, followed by our multiple choice segment and the winner of our trivia question as well before we conclude tonight's show. Once again, Dave McKaig alongside Justin Heichel, Brad Cochamilio here live at Boston Pizza Sault Ste. Marie. We're going to hear from our sponsors. We'll be right back after these messages.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional home to the Game Sports Show, Canadian franchise Boston Pizza. Boston Pizza Sault Ste. Marie, located on 601 Great Northern Road, Sault Ste. Marie. Come in and join Boston Pizza for its numerous specials that are offered. After 9 p.m. daily, come in to Boston Pizza for $9 schooners, $4 rail drinks, and delicious food. Boston Pizza Sault Ste. Marie, you're among friends.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank a list of additional sponsors. North Shore Sports and Auto, new location located on 647 McDonald Avenue, Sault Ste. Marie. A family-owned and operated business with doing business in Sault Ste. Marie for over 10 years. Loads of products available for your enjoyment for all seasons. North Shore Sports and Auto, we understand the importance of quality service and products, and we work hard to ensure that all customers have a positive experience before, and after each and every sale. North Shore Sports and Auto, meeting all of your new and pre-owned equipment needs. Special thanks to Salon. The Salon, located on 589 2nd Line East, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Owned and operated by Mike Cuglietta. Book your appointment today at 705-941-9191 or via online at https://thesalonsioux.as.me-. The Salon, making the Sioux beautiful, one haircut at a time. As well as a shout out to the Sioux Pee Wee Pro Shop. The Sioux Pee Wee Pro Shop, located inside the Community First Credit Union Sioux Pee Wee Arena on 285 Northern Avenue East, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Owned and operated by Jeremy Paquin and ran by Larry Monroe. Sioux Pee Wee Pro Shop, for over 40 years, meet all of your skate sharpening, skate repair, and hockey needs. Also to Discover the Canvas. Discover the Canvas, located on 317 Wellington Street West, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. A beautiful new renovated building owned and operated by expert artist and Sioux native Katrina Thibodeau. Katrina taking her talents of the ink in Sault Ste. Marie and truly creating the best and most realistic art locally. Call Katrina today at 705-450-8099 or email her at discoverthecanvas@gmail.com to book your tattoo or consultation today.
Thank you for tuning in to the Game Sports Show, broadcasting Thursday nights from Boston Pizza in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and online at thegamesportshow.podbean.com. I hope you're enjoying the broadcast. Now, if you want to hear more of the Twin Sault's only local, regional, and national talk show involving the world of sports, I encourage you to visit our website, thegamesportshow.com. There you can hear a couple other broadcasts of the Game Sports Show. Monday nights, we do the game from the Wicked Sister on Ashman Street in downtown Sioux, Michigan, 6 to 7 o'clock on the radio. WUPN, Eagle 95.1 locally or online at radioeaglesioux.com. Now, the full 2-hour show can be heard on the podcast page of the game at thegamesportshow.podbean.com, or you can go to our YouTube channel. Just look for Scott Nason. In that one, as yours truly, along with Dave McKeag and our weekly contributors, Butch Davis from the Telegram News and Butch on Sports, along with EJ Russell on the Team Wireless Hot Seat. We focus on local, regional, and national sports, including high school basketball and hockey, junior hockey, Laker athletics, and the Detroit sports scene. And Mr. Electric Avenue Dave McKeag also broadcasts a show on Wednesday night from Sports Center Bar and Grill in Sioux, Ontario, along with his regular contributors Jamie Antonello, Justin Heichel, and Dane Hantro. They focus on football with their In the Pocket segment, talking about the NFL along with basketball and the NBA, and other sports including tennis, golf, soccer, and the WWE. Once again, you can hear all three versions of the game at our website, thegamesportshow.com, or our podcast page, thegamesportshow.podbean.com. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look for the Scott Nason channel. And thank you for listening, and keep it locked here to the game for all your local, regional, and national sports talk that you just can't get enough of.
Get wicked at the Wicked Sister. You'll find the best tasting food for the whole family. Start off with some appetizers like the crab dip, served with warm naan bread strips and soft pretzel bites, or their antibiotic and hormone-free boneless chicken wings with 5 choices of sauces. Entrees include the barbecue pulled pork sandwich, the #1 selling drunken cow burger, or Philly cheesesteaks, and they're on special all day Thursdays. The Wicked Sister also offers a gluten-free menu and catering. Bring the whole family. The Wicked Sister, downtown Ashman Street, open 7 days a week.
The Game Sports Show would like to thank an additional sponsor and additional home to the Game Sports Show, Sports Center Bar and Grill. Sports Center Bar and Grill, located on 624 Wellington Street West, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Sports Center rated top sports bar for the 2nd year in a row. At Sports Center, enjoy their famous 75-cent wing night along with delicious Molson products on tap, along with a great atmosphere and other great food options available as well. Sports Center Bar and Grill, the Sioux's best sports bar.
Check out our brand new website, up and running now at thegamesportshow.com. There you can find past broadcasts of all our shows from the Wicked Sister in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and Boston Pizza and Sports Center Bar and Grill in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. As well, you can find our brand new t-shirts available for just $25 a shirt. All sizes are available, and proceeds will go towards Northern Critters in Need and Big Brother, Big Sister of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Now you can purchase the shirt by emailing thegamesportshowssm@gmail.com SusapeMarie.com. Please state the total amount of shirts and size needed. They have payment options available, e-transfer or cash upon delivery, as a shirt can be delivered to your location if you live in the Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, and Ontario area free of charge. TheGameSportsShow.com, where you find all your local, regional, and national sports that you just can't get enough of.
Hi, it's Craig Hartsburg, former NHL player and NHL coach. Welcome to the Game Sports Show.
Welcome back to the Game Sports Show. It's yours truly, David McKeag, here live on location at Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie, alongside Justin Heichel and Brad Cotramilio. Continuing tonight's show, but we're jumping into the hockey front now of the show, and we got plenty of news to jump into on that front. We're going to be talking about the local hockey. We're going to be talking about professional hockey as well in terms of the Sioux Greyhounds on the hockey front on the local side. On the professional side, we're going to talk about a trade that happened today, a retirement that happened today, and we're also going to be talking about some rumors alongside Erik Karlsson situation as well. That's going to take up most of the segment. As fellas, I certainly hope you saved your ranting that we had off air for that segment, because we certainly had a great rant before we jump back into the show here. So very excited to get to that topic, as it's been on my mind all week. Following that, we're going to be jumping into the multiple choice segment and then our trivia question winner before we conclude tonight's show. So, local front of Sault Ste. Marie hockey, in terms of the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. Brad, can you give us a little bit of an update on the coaching hunt, and also just a little bit of news on the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds quickly?
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty quiet. I mean, they signed first-round pick Ryan O'Rourke earlier today, which, was essentially a formality. I mean, it's one of those things. I know there was a handful of fans that were worried that he hadn't signed yet, but, I mean, you're at a point where usually it's a formality, and usually ahead of time if a guy is talking about not reporting and going college and whatnot. So, I mean, it was just a formality at this point. And, I mean, as far as the coaching search goes, I mean, it's pretty quiet, but that's a team that's tended to keep that stuff pretty quiet until they start getting into the nitty-gritty. It's an organization that, even when Drew Bannister's name came up and when Drew got hired, I mean, things didn't really start until as it got closer to when he was actually hired in July. So, I mean, I think, if we start hearing stuff a little closer, I think we'll get to a point where, we'll look at it and we'll say, okay, you know what, they might be getting close to actually hiring someone. But, I mean, they're at a point right now where there's no rush. I mean, they don't have a mini camp or anything coming up. I mean, I know they would rather get someone in position sooner rather than later. But, I mean, if they don't hire someone till mid-July, it's really not the end of the world.
No, for sure. And any kind of update on rumors on who is a front runner still, or they, like you said, they're keeping quiet. So do you have anything to surface from last week in terms of favorites?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really quiet. I mean, I know last week when I talked to Kyle Raftis, it was just one of those things where, they had people in mind that they wanted to talk to, but it was a matter of waiting and, seeing if those people were interested. I mean, I know the usual names, around here, the usual names come up of, Jordan Smith and, Jason Fortier, who's a local guy. His name, it comes up a lot more on the major junior discussion. But, I mean, we have to remember that, I'm not saying those guys wouldn't be a good fit, but we have to remember that, they've got a system in place. So you're almost hiring a guy that coaches that system as opposed to hiring a new coach and changing the system. It's a lot easier to hire a guy and bring a guy in who's going to coach that system than it is to bring in that guy and just change the whole system itself. I mean, you've already drafted, a group of kids going in, so, you don't want to go and have to change that royally over the course of the next couple of months leading into camp. So, we're going to see a guy who's a puck possession guy who's, a guy similar to Drew Bannister and Sheldon Keefe. I mean, for me, that's probably going to be the biggest thing is, it's going to be a guy along those lines.
See, I said on the Game Sports Show on Monday with Scott Nason that I felt that Bannister and Keefe have similar kind of coaching tactics, but different personas on the bench.
Oh, for sure.
And Sheldon Keefe being younger than Bannister is, different approach to the game, it felt. But that's the kind of style, though, in terms of systems that they have a little bit of similarity to, and that's obviously somebody that they're going to be desiring because that's what's been successful for them.
Yeah, and I mean, that's one of those things. I mean, the the mentality and the persona of a coach, I mean, it's not really, it's one of those things that, at the end of the day, you're looking for a guy who, is going to fit the system. You're not looking for a guy who's going to come in and, you don't necessarily need a guy coming in as, a completely different mentality. Like, you don't need a guy coming in, say, as a Craig Hartsburg who, players enjoyed playing for, but, was a very different mindset than some other guys, right? Where, you look at Sheldon, he's a little more talkative on the bench is a way to put it. And, nothing against Drew Bannister. I mean, Drew Bannister was a vocal guy on the bench as well, but I mean, there was, it was one of those things that, Sheldon was maybe more active on the bench than Drew is, but I mean, Drew still, is a guy who went out and got the job done. So, it doesn't necessarily, the persona of a coach doesn't necessarily matter so much as the style they're bringing in.
Be very interesting to see, as we'll keep an eye on that here on the Game Sports Show when it comes to the coaching hunt and the offseason for the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, as they are going to be connected with the Game Sports Show going forward. Now, we're going to jump to the NHL level, the professional level here, and the AHL level. Just a quick update on the AHL level. The Toronto Marlies have just gained a 4-1 lead here late in the third period, as Texas has pulled their goalie with just above 3 minutes left, as we discuss here. And probably by the time we're done this segment, it's pretty inevitable that the game will be completed and that the Toronto Marlies should be Calder Cup champions in the AHL. And we'll get to that final word, though, when it actually happens, because we know in Toronto sports, when you get really excited for when something's not officially done, you might end up being disappointed. But just an update, that is the AHL update that I'm going to provide to you in the final moments of this game, and then we'll give the final word to whom wins the AHL championship here tonight. But on the NHL side, Peter Budaj got traded today to the Los Angeles Kings. He returns to the city of Kings. He's going to be backing up Jonathan Quick, it seems like, and it seems like LA went with a reliable backup with somebody whom had a lot of success with the Los Angeles Kings, and very depth move for the Los Angeles Kings. And I'm going to go over to you, Justin, just a comment on this trade. I know it's a trade that we like to use the hashtag yawn to, because it's not a trade that is a big impact trade, but you know what? LA getting a backup goalie, a serviceable backup goaltender that's going to be someone who's familiar with the system as well. It's definitely an asset to that organization, it seems.
I mean, I'd like to think maybe it's a move as an asset to that organization, but we also need to touch on that the buyout window opens up in less than a couple hours, and maybe LA has a little more room to be able to afford that buyout than, and that's the unfortunate reality of the sport, is that, sometimes things like that happen, and we like to think that a player is going to ride off into the sunset, but actually just gets bought out and that's it. I mean, it may not be that, but I kind of think it's that. I really do. I think it's a little early in the off-season to be making depth moves to bolster your backup goaltender before training camp. I really do.
Very interesting points. Now, as we spoke, the Toronto Marlies have increased their lead to a 5-1 lead over Texas. There's 2 minutes left in the game here, so a few moments till we get to officially potentially say still 5-1, but I'm going to wait till that final buzzer before we can say the Toronto Marlies are champions of the AHL and Toronto has won a championship. Very excited to be able to get those words out of my mouth. Just like I said, 2 minutes left in the third period there. Brad, I won't even touch on the Peter Budaj side because we were discussing it just briefly off air, and that it was a trade that is just kind of getting the dominoes rolling, especially when it leads towards the buyout window, and very curious to see how that buyout window goes as well. We're going to jump to the rumor front. You're the one that broke this news to me. Ilya Kovalchuk has been rumored now to talk to the Boston Bruins. I was hoping to God that team would not be brought up in rumors. Last week we're talking about how Los Angeles and the San Jose Sharks were the individuals and teams that where Kovalchuk was being rumored to go to. And now Boston's in the running, and is there even room for him in Boston? Is there cap space there for him in Boston? Or not even just cap space, a fit for him. Do you think that's a good move for him to go to Boston?
Well, I mean, you know what? And I know I've been critical of Ilya Kovalchuk, but I mean, he's a guy, with that kind of skill, you make some room for him. I mean, for me, he's too expensive for my blood, in all honesty. But he's a guy who, if I'm the Boston Bruins, obviously, I make an effort to make some room and see what happens. And like you said, I mean, he's just one of those guys that it's unconfirmed, but number of papers are reporting that he has met with LA for sure and San Jose. The LA Times is reporting that they met as recently as Friday, and he met with San Jose as recently as Monday. Don Sweeney in Boston has confirmed that they've talked to his camp. So, I mean, it's not surprising that he's generated that much interest, and it's one of those things that, I mean, how do you not, right? I mean, it's it's one of those things that, I mean, I'm not a huge Ilya Kovalchuk guy, but I can get why teams are interested in bringing him in.
And Brad, as you said, that the Marlies have increased the lead to 6-1 now with 35 seconds left in the third period. So just to branch off what you said about Kovalchuk, I just feel that there's a fit for him with the Washington Capitals still. I know everyone at this table sits here and says there's no cap space, and you're right. The Caps have no cap space. But for him to go to Boston or him to go to LA, I would just love to see him go play with Alex Ovechkin and play that off wing with him and Backstrom. Just for a team that is looking to repeat, a team who has the potential to repeat. There's Pittsburgh, him and Malkin are good friends. There's a lot of fit on him with going to Boston as well because of him playing on the left side with the departure of Rick Nash probably happening, or probably certainty happening. So I do see the fit, along with LA, who needs a scoring winger, but it would just not make sense, I feel, for him to go to Boston. I think for some reason, I think the most sense would be for him to go to the Washington Capitals or make a jump to the Western Conference side on San Jose. But those are the two teams that I'm mostly interested as well. And people ask me if Toronto would be a destination. No, definitely not be a destination, I don't think, for Ilya Kovalchuk. But another fascinating side might be if the Islanders sign John Tavares. Maybe the Ilya Kovalchuk saga goes to Long Island and Lou Lamoriello signs Ilya Kovalchuk for a second time. Interested to see what you think as the listeners, if they will be the potential sponsor for Ilya Kovalchuk, if it is going to be San Jose or LA. You let me know what you think the fit is for Ilya Kovalchuk. And as I say that, I can say these words. The Toronto Marlies have won the AHL championship. A Toronto team has won a hockey championship. I didn't say Stanley Cup there or anything like that. I made sure I didn't make any mistakes there or going to Dreamland. But the Toronto Marlies are champions of the American Hockey League, and for the first time in franchise history, and very well deserving. A very deep team that Marlies team was, and a very deep organization Toronto has for the years to come. And, they're looking great for the future, and congratulations to the Toronto Marlies for winning the AHL championship. Dubas in attendance too, very excited. He was a part of building that team this year before he got promoted to be the GM of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Soon native being a part of this championship for the AHL Toronto Marlies, as Garrett Sparks is fantastic all year for the Marlies and in this playoffs, and all the players really chipping in for the Marlies. A lot of young guys there with Dermott and Gauthier, a lot of guys who we might presume will be on the Toronto Maple Leafs next year, get to hoist a trophy above their head and experience that, which I think is very important for them going forward to their National Hockey League careers. Fellas, we're going to branch off now, though, we're going to leave Ilya Kovalchuk in the rearview mirror and jump into a topic that we were ranting about before we went on air, before we jumped to our NHL awards predictions. Erik Karlsson. Now, I know this is one that we're going to have a lot of words to. We still got some time to talk about it here. Brad, I'm going to go over to you first. I'm going to let you explain the situation more because I got more of a summary point of it. I think you got a bit more of a clearer kind of view on it. And then I want you to state your comments towards the allegations, let's say, and the side of the story.
Yeah, and from what I understand, and this is it's a really strange situation. I mean, the Ottawa Senators, for lack of a better phrase, have turned into a dumpster fire.
CFL Center.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I never thought I'd say this, but it's making the Cleveland Browns look like a model professional franchise.
Yikes.
Just with everything that's gone on there, just this summer. And we're in, it's mid-June, and it's already a mess there. For those that don't know the situation, I mean, the basics of it are there are allegations of harassment placed on Mike Hoffman's fiance and comments directed towards Erik Karlsson's wife. That's the basics of it. It's one of those things that, from what I understand, there's, an order of protection against Mike Hoffman's fiance for this that was filed in early May. It's such an absolute mess. And you know what? I said this off air. I mean, I've believed that Erik Karlsson was going to get traded and was not going to be a member of the Ottawa Senators in September anyway. But if there were a nail in the coffin, this has to be it.
Nail in the coffin for Mike Hoffman?
Oh, wow.
Booyah! I had to say it one more time.
The idea that, and there's this idea that team officials knew what was going on, which makes it that much worse to me. How do you not deal with that situation? As soon as you find out something like that's going on, that situation needs to be dealt with. And I mean, I'm not saying they knew for months. I don't know if, maybe they didn't. Maybe this is just a rumor, but if you knew about it, it has to be dealt with. Then they're done. You have to. If I'm Mike Hoffman, how do I go into the dressing room in September? How do I go to training camp? If I'm still a member of the Ottawa Senators, and I mean, I get that hockey is a brotherhood, I get it, but this is just one of those situations that, even though Mike Hoffman is not the person involved directly, it's got to be the most awkward situation for him going back into that dressing room come next winter. I mean, I don't know. This situation just is, every time something comes up, you feel like it takes so much time to digest it because you're trying to understand how it happens and how it gets to this. And I mean, you know what? I've always said, social media is an amazing thing. It's a wonderful thing. But it can also be a bad thing. I feel like I do feel there are times where we can get too personal, where people post stuff that's way too personal, whether it's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. I mean, sometimes there's something good to be not doing that and kind of keeping some stuff for yourself. I mean, social media is such a good thing, but it's such a bad thing as well. And I mean, we look at this situation, it's just it just seems to be getting worse every day.
Now, Justin, before I go over to you, he spoke on hockey being a brotherhood, and there's no way Hoffman goes to that locker room next year. But also, there's no way Karlsson goes to that locker room next year either. Erik Karlsson picked up that puck last game of last year, not because it was the 82nd game of the season. I think he picked that up for a reason. He knew this was done. This was back in May, this situation that didn't come to fruition until recently. How all this happened. Karlsson knew this was happening before the last game of the season. He had desired to leave at the deadline, and we wondered why. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that we don't know, and Ottawa has been an absolute dumpster fire. It's an absolute embarrassment to the Ottawa organization this has been happening. Ever since the death of Brian Murray, God bless him, it's the team has been on a downslide. With Eugene Melnyk, with Karlsson now, with Hoffman, the deadline, not making moves, not looking toward the future. A lot reminds me. The trades remind me of how the Leafs didn't make moves to move Matt Sundin when they could, because apparently Sundin didn't want to, but there's players they could have moved that year and they didn't. You want to improve the organization, you got to move out players that aren't fits in that organization. Now, Karlsson is a fit because he's one of the best defensemen in the National Hockey League, but he's not comfortable there anymore. I don't care what anyone says or even what he says. There's no way he's comfortable putting on an Ottawa Senators jersey anymore. Mike Hoffman. There's no way he is comfortable. Now, who are the two players we were talking about at the deadline that were rumored all over the place? Doesn't it make sense? It makes a little bit of sense now, doesn't it? It's funny how things come and play, especially when you're in the world of media like we are, and we get the extra little cheesecake desserts on how, and the appetizers, and how we get to see how all this happens. And Karlsson needs to leave because of the situation, because of what has happened to him there. Mike Hoffman needs to leave because if I'm on the Ottawa Senators, despite this was his girlfriend's allegations and all that, I'm not comfortable in that locker room. If I'm someone in that locker room, I don't feel him as to be the same individual as I looked at him previously. So, Justin, I'm going to go over to you. Karlsson, elaborate on the situation, how you feel, and is Karlsson gone? Good as gone. Same with Hoffman.
Well, I mean, somewhere Gerard Gallant sits there and goes, man, Florida wasn't even that bad. And, that's a fact. But in all seriousness, I mean, if we're going to touch on the hockey as a brotherhood thing, Karlsson had to have lost that locker room as a captain early in the season for stuff like this to be going on. And that, in hindsight, which is always, 2020 or maybe even better than that most times, has taught us anything. That's probably a reflection of the season we got. There was just too much of a mess going on for anyone to get any sort of traction. And I hate to beat the leadership drum again in this conversation because it seems to be applicable to every conversation we've had tonight. But how can the GMs be held accountable for what's going on with the team when the ownership's out there shit-talking in public? Fact. I mean, now, there's two sides to every story, and if you own a team, you can do what you want with it, but in the same token, you got fans that pay for your team to succeed, so you probably want to keep them happy. That being said, you'd probably want to keep your number one jersey seller happy. That being said, if your number one jersey seller was being harassed and you knew about it, as per rumors, you probably should have taken care of that business, regardless of the cost. If you were so committed to that player, you would have got rid of whatever was causing those problems at any cost to make sure that you catered to your star player. So, and on the same token where Brad said, how does Mike Hoffman go into a locker room next year? How difficult is it for Erik Karlsson to go into a locker room with this aura around him now where every single one of us have played a sport and we know this exists, where there's still going to be some issue with Erik Karlsson because, even though personally none of us see an issue with him coming forward with these allegations and trying to get something done about it, there's still a stigma around a guy like that in the locker room. It doesn't matter. It's just a team mentality where a guy like that is hard to bring back into a locker room because you don't really know if you can trust him. And it's not because there's a matter of mistrust going on. It's just that he was finally broken to a point where he had to go public with his information. And so that everyone knows that. And eventually that trust comes back, but it's equally as difficult for Erik Karlsson to go into a locker room in the fall as it is for Mike Hoffman. And very well, we're speaking from the outside, and we don't know what's gone on. Erik Karlsson and Mike Hoffman may not have any issues with each other. They might not. I mean, given the climate of what we're seeing in the public, they're probably not happy about how significant others are reacting. But the fact that there's a restraining order involved, we have to believe that there's some seriousness behind the allegations. But these guys may have been absolute professionals the entire time. We don't know. But it's tough to say that the Ottawa Senators organization was even capable of handling this with all this going on. With the owner going around in the public saying things, with your assistant GM getting handsy at the scouting combine, with this going on in the media, with Karlsson not playing good all year, it is really difficult for your GM to kind of focus on one thing and run with it. And so maybe you kind of have to go into the offseason with using everything as a scapegoat and burn it down.
I think moving Carlson's a formality.
It is.
Along with moving Mike Hoffman. Those are two guys who are supposed to move. There's teams that are looking for left wingers, right wingers. There's teams that are starving for defense. And speaking of defense, that's not just a defenseman. That's a stud on that back end. That's a guy who is a leader.
He makes PK
And a leader.
He makes PK Subban most times look like a 7 out of 10.
For real. He is. And when Carlson is in Carlson form, he's amazing. And you know, like, I think Carlson is going to be moved, and I've said it before, I think Vegas. I've said it. And I just think that'd be a great, refreshing start for him. And there's a lot of teams that could be in that running as well. There's teams that would welcome him. All 30 other teams would take him on their team. And for these to happen, Mike Hoffman's girlfriend, these are types of things that when things happen in the sporting world, you're under a spotlight. And Hoffman, all these allegations, if proven guilty and whatnot, it just make things awkward. Not even if they are proven guilty. Even if just the situation alone creates awkwardness and animosity in the locker room. And you need to make the moves necessary that's going to benefit the organization. You don't just trade Hoffman for a 6th-round pick. Or I might start calling you Peter Chiarelli. All right? Jokes aside, that's not even a joke. Because the guy traded Patrick Maroon for a 3rd-round pick, and the Wings got a 1st and a 3rd, or whatever, 1st and a 2nd for Thomas Tatar. Okay, so I'm going to say right now that Erik Karlsson needs to be moved, so does Hoffman. 2 different teams, obviously, and have fresh starts. I know there's teams starving for white wingers that can score, because it's not him that's the problem right now. It's the girlfriend allegations, but it leads to him. Just like with the Karlsson thing. Everything leads, and it's just the awkwardness in general.
If you're trading them both, what you get for Karlsson outweighs what you'd have to take or not take to get rid of Hoffman. I think you break even on that regardless. I really do. And all media drama aside, like this is really just a sad, bothersome situation. I mean, I think all of us had the same reaction. It just kind of bothers you in your guts. You know, like this is just probably something that shouldn't happen. Like maybe because we hold the sport so dear. I mean, hockey players are, out of all athletes, are probably the most high class. And that's not just me beating the Don Cherry drum here, because Don and I have been on the fence this year. But it is like hockey players hold themselves in public in such a high regard. You don't really see a lot of this stuff going on. I mean, maybe in junior towns and small stuff like that, there's rumors and gossip and everything else. But as far as the NHL, like top of the line professional league goes, you don't see them conducting themselves like players in any other league. So seeing something like this really bugs me.
Absolutely. Brad, any final points about the topic before we move on to our, multiple choice segment?
Yeah, it's just a really tough situation, right? I mean, it's one of those things that there's no easy answer. There's no kind of quick fix to this, but I mean, at the end of the day, just something has to be done. Both guys need to be moved, and just get this taken care of as quick as possible. And if you're the Ottawa Senators, just move on.
Absolutely. And actually, before we jump to our multiple choice segment, we're going to have our NHL awards predictions. Before we move to our multiple choice segment, instead of doing the multiple choice segment first, then awards, we're going to do the awards first. And fellas, going to the brighter side to kind of predict the winners, the Las Vegas hosting the NHL awards. Of course, the awards take place June the 20th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Just going to go around the table and kind of make this like a little multiple choice segment to branch into it, but we're just going to say quickly, no reason, just predict your winner for the trophy that I ask you, and I'll state the nominees, and you say who you think is going to win. Starting, the Vezina Trophy for the best goaltender, Connor Hellebuyck, Pekka Rinne, or Andrei Vasilevsky. Brad.
Connor Hellebuyck.
Justin.
Hellebuyck.
Love that pick, but sorry, fellas, I'm going to Pekka Rinne. Frank Selke Trophy, Bergeron, Couturier, and Kopitar. The Frank Selke Trophy is the best defensive forward. Again, Bergeron, Couturier, or Kopitar. Brad.
Big Angie Kopitar fan. I'm going with Kopi on this one.
Justin.
I don't want to say it.
Say it.
I don't want to. Everyone knows it's goddamn Bergeron.
Bergeron. Well, we're going to have a split here. I'm going with Sean Couturier. I'm going off the realm there. People are going to roll their eyes, but if I didn't have Couturier, Kopitar would be the guy I would go with. But Couturier, I feel had such a strong season. But you're right, I just can't say the word Patrice Bergeron. Maybe that's why. The James Norris Trophy, the best defenseman, Drew Doughty, Victor Hedman, or PK Subban. I'm going to switch it up. Justin.
I don't like any of them, so I'm going to take Hedman. I mean, that's...
Hedman, Brad?
Victor Hedman for me, too.
Hedman. Clear sweep for that on that. Lady Bing, the most gentlemanly player. Alexander Barkov, William Karlsson, or Ryan O'Reilly? Brad.
Going with Willie Karlsson on this one.
I'm going to go second. I'm going with Willie Karlsson.
It's a sweep for Karlsson.
Bill Masterson Trophy, which is the dedication to hockey. Brian Boyle, Roberto Luongo, or Jordan Staal. I'm going to go first. I'm so close with Luongo and Boyle, but I'm going to go with Brian Boyle. Brad?
Yeah, you know what? I'm a huge Luongo fan, but going with Brian Boyle on this one. This was an easy one for me.
Yeah. Justin?
See, I'm torn between all three of them just because of the different situations that everyone's faced this year. But Luongo, he's hands down mine.
Didn't want the sweep again there, I guess. The Calder Memorial. Calder for best rookie. We know who was in the lead for this before he went down with injury, but Matthew Barzal, Brock Besser, or Clayton Keller. I'll start by saying Matthew Barzal is your rookie of the year. Justin?
I'm going with Besser.
Brad?
Matt Barzal. Easy answer for me. I mean, the kid had how many 5-point nights this year?
Amazing, right? Good numbers on his back, too. Mark Messier NHL Leadership Award. Derek England, Wayne Simmons, or Blake Wheeler? Brad?
You know what? I'm going to go with Derek England. Just with the whole situation with Vegas and early in the year, with the shooting and everything, I'm gonna go with Derek England, the Vegas boy, getting it done.
I agree. I go Derek England as well. Justin?
I want to take England, but I'm taking Blake Wheeler. Just with that team this year, going to how they came down the stretch. That was, and even our friend of the show, Paul Maurice, commended him on his leadership abilities. So,
good point. Jack Adams Award for Coach of the Year. Jarrett Betnar from the Colorado Avalanche. That's a decent selection as well. Bruce Cassidy or Gerard Gallant from Las Vegas. I think I know exactly where we're going with this. Is it? I almost feel like saying, is it a clear sweep for Gallant on the table here? Are we? Nope.
Not even close.
It's not even. I'm Gerard Gallant. So, Brad?
Yeah, for me, it's not even close.
Justin?
yeah, hands down.
Yeah, hands. Okay, clear sweep for Gerard Gallant. Congratulations, Gerard. You proved me wrong. I thought you were getting fired at the end of this season. Sorry. Ted Lindsay Award, best player voted by the NHLPA. Hall, McKinnon, or McDavid? You know what? I know there's a lot of politics in the world of hockey, and I'm going to answer this first. That's why I'm going to give a little explanation. There's a lot of politics in the world of hockey, and McDavid's going to be the front runner because of such. Yes, he's the best talent in the National Hockey League. I actually still think second best. I still think Crosby has the edge on him in terms of talent. But besides that, McDavid's the cornerstone of hockey. But I am going Nathan McKinnon. Said it to be earlier in the year, before the deadline, after the deadline, when we've had numerous discussion about these rewards being given out. So I'm going with McKinnon. Justin?
I'm really close on this one, but I'm going to take Taylor Hall. Like, I really do think he finally, he was Taylor Hall that we saw in junior.
Brad?
You know what? I'm going to just keep mixing it up here. I'm going with McDavid.
Not surprised. Now, a couple more awards to get to here. 3 more. Hart Trophy for MVP. Taylor Hall, Kopitar, or McKinnon. I'm staying put. Sorry, Kopitar. Sorry, Hall. I know, Hall, you were a true leader this year, but I'm going with Nathan McKinnon. Justin?
I'm going Taylor Hall.
Brad?
As much as I'm a huge AJ Kopitar fan, I'm going McKinnon on this one.
Like that, 2 for 1. King Clancy Memorial Trophy. The Sedin Twins, PK Subban, or Jason Zucker. Believe it or not, it's going to think I'd be very tight between Zucker and the Sedin Twins, but I'm going to go with the Sedin Twins. Brad?
I'm going to jump in on the Jason Zucker bandwagon on this one.
Justin, sorry.
Yeah, I'm going with the Sedins.
The general manager of the year, Kevin Cheveldayoff, the Winnipeg Jets, George McPhee of the Vegas Golden Knights, or Steve Yzerman. Oh, every part of me, I'm going to go first. I want to pick Kevin Cheveldayoff in the worst way, but I won't because I don't think it's going to be him. And Stevie Y, you're a fan of mine, but George McPhee is going to be the guy to win the hardware, I think. Justin?
Well, I mean, you kind of have to pick the guy whose current team and former team both made it to the Cup final. I mean, it's tough to pick against the guy who built the teams in the Cup final. That's just a fact.
Brad?
How can you argue with that? He basically put both teams in the Stanley Cup final this year. How do you not? It's if George McPhee doesn't win this award, it's a travesty.
Very good answers, fellas. We're just going to jump right into our multiple choice segment. We only have 2 questions tonight, as that was actually a lot of questions that could be considered multiple choice. So just to jump to our multiple choice segment, jumping right into it, everyone knows what that is. You answer a question that I give you with the options that I gave you. And the first question, I'm going to go to Justin first on the answer. Are you picking the over or the under on trades at the NHL draft next week? The over being 5 trades. The under being under 5 trades.
I'm taking the over. I think we're going to be in a real interesting climate come next Friday.
Brad?
Over. Over, definitely.
Clean sweep on the over. Wow. Next multiple choice question. It's a different question. The one that Justin mostly brought to the table. Which storyline right now that we are talking about will not be coming out of our mouths in the next 2 weeks? A, Erik Karlsson. B, John Tavares. Or C, Ilya Kovalchuk. Brad, you first.
You know what? I'm going to say Ilya Kovalchuk. I feel like this gets done really quickly, and it's going to be out of sight, out of mind.
Justin.
I'm going to say Tavares. I just think he probably ends up back in Long Island with maybe some defensive help or something else, and that's it.
Well, you guys got me torn because I'm going to lean towards one side. I'm going to have to agree with the John Tavares. I actually think we're going to have a storyline that's done in terms of if he's leaving or staying. We'll know within 2 weeks if he's leaving or staying. Won't know where he's going if he's leaving. We know where he's going if he stays, obviously, duh. But I'm going to say the storyline of if he's leaving or staying is going to be the question that's going to be answered. So, fellas, that's the multiple choice segment here. I'm going to jump into the next and last part, the trivia question. The trivia question that was brought to attention, it was from last week that I reiterated it, but from the week prior is when it was asked. And it's when we had Craig Hartsburg on the show. The question was, when did Craig Hartsburg get drafted? What round and overall was the one we were specifically pulling towards there? He went first round, and it was 6th overall. And he's a defenseman, obviously, that went first round, 6th overall in 1979 to the Minnesota North Stars. Is Ashley Caputo. Listener and fan of the show. She's been in attendance with the show, with the Game Sports Show as well. However, she is the one who first submitted her answer on the email, and she has won a free large pizza courtesy of Boston Pizza. So congratulations to Ashley Caputo on that for winning the large pizza and getting the answer right. She even answered when the date was of the draft as well, and what position he played as well. So congratulations to Ashley again for winning the large pizza courtesy of Boston Pizza. We're not going to have a trivia question this week. It will be brought back next week because we're getting a little crunched for time. So we'll get the question next week, and we'll also add a bonus question next week to make it a 2-part question for your chance to win 2 prizes, courtesy of Boston Pizza, Sault Ste. Marie. Now, fellas, get to the usual conclusion portion in just a few seconds. I want to say thanks to you, Brad, for coming on by. We'll see you Thursday next week.
Hey, I'll be here.
Justin, you are going to be somewhere on Saturday.
I kind of want you to say where you're going to be, what it's for, and also you'll be here next week, obviously.
I will 100% be here next week. And Saturday, we're going to be hanging out at PetSmart with our friends at Northern Critters in Need. I believe they are there from, 10 to 2, I think, is their hangout?
Yep.
I should be rolling in there, maybe around 10, maybe around 11, but I'll be there till about 1 o'clock, hanging out with everybody, helping out, doing whatever they need me to do around there. Just point me in a direction, tell me to go, I guess. If you need me to pet some dogs, I'm good with that. I'm also good at brushing cats.
Justin will be on hand for yours truly, especially as I'll be working at my other job. And, that's going to be very awesome to see Justin there. And he'll be supporting the Game Sports Show swag. And you can ask Justin about how you can purchase that swag. You can also look on www.thegamesportshow.com and look under the merchandise tab as well. And listen to previous shows as well. And you can follow us on thegamesportshow.podbean.com or check us out on the Scott Nason YouTube channel. You can message myself, Brad, or Justin, or Scott, or EJ, or Butch Davis. You can ask us anytime or email us at thegamesportshow@ssm@gmail.com. We're going to be at the Wicked Sister on Monday, myself, Scott, Butch, and EJ. And on Wednesday next week, we do have the week off, obviously, because it's our bye week for Sports Center Bar and Grill, but we will be back here Thursday. Myself, Justin, and Brad, alongside some guests we hope as well that we will announce next week as well. Special shout out to Boston Pizza staff, Lauren and Mitch, the bringer of beer himself, and to Samantha Maione and to Aaron Grisdak for their great hospitality as always here at Boston Pizza, and to you, the listeners, being a part of the Game Sports Show, as you are always a part of us each week, and we are extremely thankful. And Scott Nason as well. Shout out to you, the board operator tonight, as he always does a great job and a true heartbeat to the Game Sports Show. Fellas, to the usual conclusion point, the catchphrase that they call fantastic. Keep your stick on the ice, swing your bat, catch your touchdown, drain your threes, and shoot your shots. Booyah.